But there's our little box. Here's one that I made several weeks ago that's a little bit worse for wear. But there's our little box to start. And now we're going to turn it into our little handbag. We're going to do that by taking our 11-inch strips of paper. And we're going to use a little corner rounder on the end of them so it gives it a more purse-like look. I already did that for sake of time for you. And then we're going to use, again, a little snail. And then glue that down the center of our strap. So this started out as the 1-inch by 11-inch piece, and then the pattern paper, the DSP, is cut a 1/2 inch shorter. You will have to trim that in your kit. Now, since we have this magnificent new punching tool, I went ahead and lined up 2 dots for my brads, and I kind of measured those. And now I can punch through my other handles without measuring them, so that makes that go really quick. So for a class, you might have one handle done, pass it around, and let everybody go ahead and punch from your example, and that way all your customers don't have to line that up. So now we're going to put the handles on the bag. Now to put the handles on the bag, that's a little bit trickier because this bag, actually, the handles bend like this so that you have room for the cards. On an ordinary purse, you might put the handles like this. We're going to put the handles to the side, and so I'm just going to hold one in the position that I want it, and I'm going to just put my little mat so I don't poke my finger behind that, and then I'm going to poke it through the bag. And be very careful with this step. Just give it a little wiggle. It doesn't have to poke in very much for the brads to be able to go through. And I've put my brads here on my little pad, and so then I can just slip my brads in that hole, and then using that same tool I can spread the brads very easily. There's one, and there's 2. Again, this is a very sharp tool. This is our new tool. I don't have our new pads yet. I'm using the older one, but if you even have a piece of cork, you could stick it behind there so that you don't jam it into your fingers. Again, we're gonna, I'm just doing this by eyeball, and I'm also following the pattern on my paper as far as my placement. I can kind of see where the pattern is. If your pattern is more random or floral, you might have to actually pick another point. But again, it doesn't have to shoot all the way through all the papers. You just need a little hole in it so that you can poke the brad. There's already a hole here, and then the brad will go into the bag. And this is probably the most time-consuming part of the project, is putting the handles on. But while I'm putting on the handles, I'll show you another cute little bag that I made. This is a birthday party bag. You can see I left off the strip altogether and added a little tag so that birthday party guests at a boy's birthday party could go home with a little party favor without feeling like they were walking out with a handbag. Here's another little bag that I made that I didn't put any embellishment on. It's also cute. It's using some of our retired DSP. So making these kind of things for hostesses is a good way to use up your product that we no longer sell. And nice little gift for friends and teachers and neighbors and anybody that you want to give a little remembrance, because it does hold several cards. I really love the Summer Smooches set, Sweet and Stamping Set Bright Blossoms. I have this thing for Mary Englebright, and I'm going to show you a little bit later how I go all Mary Englebright with Stampin' Up. It's fun to be able to use other interests that you have in connection with stamping, and also to be inspired by other artists other than rubber stamp artists. Good ideas come from the Pinterest board and all kinds of other great crafting sites that are online. So make sure that you check some of those things out. I hope everybody that's working along at home is enjoying their Make-and-Take kit or these instructions. I will have printed instructions. This particular bag was designed by Amy Salona. A lot of you probably know Amy and follow her blog, which is ustampforfun.com. Amy's got great inspiration. She's such a wonderful Stampin' Up! Personality. I met her several years ago when she hosted a swap at a convention, and I just love Amy and her work, and so I'm happy to bring you a replica of that today. So here's our bag all completed, but now we're going to just gussy it up just a little bit. So I'm going to just stick it aside, and I want to show you how to create a cute little flower. So we started with our fun flower die and cut it out of a half a piece of cardstock. And these are the pieces that you get. When I first saw this die, I thought, why do we have all these little pieces? None of them go together. And I'm going to show you how they go together really well. So here's some that I've inked. So I wanted to show you that. I know you know how to do that. I have my little Inkinator, I call it, and a little sponge, and I just sponge the edges of these. But now I'm going to give it a little bit of a softer look. I'm just going to I don't want to make it too curly yet, but I just kind of want to soften up the edges of this flower a little bit before I start putting it together. So, because flowers usually are a little textured, they're not flat paper. So, I'm just warming up my little flower. So there we go. We're going to start with this one. Almost forgot, Stampin' Dimensionals. What will we do without them? We're going to put a Stampin' Up! Dimensional on our little circle. Now you no need to ink this because you're not going to see it. So we're going to pull the paper off and stick it in the center of the flower, and then put another dimensional on top. Then we're going to take our next piece. Now this one's a fun one to fold up because you just take your thumb and press it in the center of each blossom. So now we're going to take that off, and I always stagger my flowers so that the petals peek out from behind the petal. So there you go with that one. Now we're going to take that small, and what we're doing is giving our flower that extra depth and dimension by using these little pieces. You can always use them later for flower centers, but right now we're going to hide them in our project, and we're going to use them just to give our flower a little depth. Now this last one is the one that shows up in the center. So I'm going to use my tool to make a little creases like it was like a little flower petal. And then I'm just going to bend these up and back. I don't want them to, like I said, I don't want them to stick out too much, but I don't want them to be flat anymore either. Oh, I missed this side. So this is kind of fun to manipulate paper that way. Okay, so now we're going to stick that in the very center. Okay, and then we're going to be ready for our flower center. And I'm going to use the vintage brad. Now there's two sides. There's a side that has a little bowl, and then there's the dome side. And for this project, I think I'm going to glue it down with the little bowl in the center. And so I'm going to use some of our glue dots. That's about the only way that buttons go on well. And this is a clear button, so it's great that our adhesive is clear, so that we won't see it when we assemble our project. And I do have a piece of baker's twine tied in that button because I just don't like to put a button on a project and have a big hole sticking out at me. So I usually try to cover it up. So there we go. And there's our flower. Now I want my flower to stay on. So I'm going to go back to sticky strip adhesive. It's already got enough dimension. I don't need to add any more dimension to the flower when I attach it. So I'm just going to put a couple strips on there and use the tip of my scissors to pull that back off. You know, my stamping area's never looked this uncrowded, but yet it looks pretty crowded. Don't you always just stamp and sit with all your stuff? Alright, here we go. Our finished bag. You figure out which side you want to be the front, and I always want to be the front where I don't have the seam, so I'm going to turn it to the other side here, and I'm going to put this pretty little flower. Isn't it gorgeous? I just love this bag. And there you go. Our cute little bag that we're going to add some cards to in our next segment. Thanks for watching.